match. But first, though, here's Alan Tyler with Trial by Night.
There we go. Fantastic. What an audience we've got for you tonight. It is, of course, what a show we've got for you tonight. It is, of course, as you know by now, what show? There you go, Trial by Night and this lot know it. They're a fantastic audience. We've only got 2 shows to go, so we made sure they were. And, you know, you want a test? Look at this. This lot can, if they like, applaud. There we go, highly trained. They can, if they so choose, show the guests the green cards. There's always one who shows her head, every show. And they also can, of course, show the all-important red cards. There is so much more enthusiasm goes into that particular manoeuvre, I can tell you. We've got a cracking show for you, and indeed for you tonight. We will have a beef with the top Scottish chef, we'll have a beef with Hello Magazine, and we'll have a beef with an agony aunt. I wondered how they were going to go on that. Let's meet the guests. They're waiting over here. Well, first up, a man who normally spends his time scooting up and down the coast of Scotland sampling the local wares. It is, of course, top chef Nick Nairn, who tonight will argue
that the government should lift the ban on beef on the bone.
There we go, a lot of support. Welcome to the show, a lot of support. I've got my work cut out, obviously. Secondly tonight, well, Hello Magazine reached its 10th year, 500 editions this month. So we have publishing director Sally Cartwright with us tonight, who will argue
that Hello Magazine proves it pays to be nice.
Yeah, I can hear the cynics in there already. Finally, I'm seeing a psychic. I'm seeing problems. I'm seeing the Evening Times. I'm seeing Ruth the Truth, who tonight will argue.
Oh, I can't remember.
Oh, God.
I'm only joking.
But you're psychic, you should know.
I'm only joking. I can know all the answers.
There we go, let's hear it. All the answers except that one, obviously. We've got great guests, we've got a fantastic audience. It's a jam-packed show. We need one more thing, a guest presenter. Tonight, it's a woman who normally works behind the scenes on Trial by Night, but she's so talented, she's so fantastic, and frankly, she has such great brides, we had to have her in front of the camera. Please welcome Alison McGregor to Trial by Night. Well done, we love you. Great. I'm saying like welcoming you to the show, but in fact, normally you would be behind the scenes trying to make us lot look good. So how does it feel to be out here for a change?
It's enjoyable, but we always have to make you look good, Alan. You need our help, you'd be nowhere without us.
Yeah, don't stand in defence on this. Just tell me it like it is, straight off. So which debate are you particularly looking forward to?
It has to be Nick Nairn because I do like a bit of meat.
There you go, you heard it here first. I'm so glad you said that, I really am. You're going to introduce the first guest in a bit, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
And harass him no end, I should imagine. Let's move on. Firstly tonight, before we get to the first guest, we're going to take a look at the issue that has dominated the headlines all week. Last weekend saw Unionists and Republicans and the British and Irish governments agree an historic deal aimed at finally securing peace in Northern Ireland. It may not have the support of the Orange Order, but latest polls suggest the deal has the support of 3/4 of the population in Northern Ireland. And they will be given the opportunity to endorse the agreement in a referendum on the 22nd of May, not far away. Tonight, we'll gauge opinion here in Scotland when we ask our audience if they believe the peace deal will stick. Let's see what they think. OK, right off, we'll come straight to you, yes.
Where there's people, there'll always be fighting, I think. But I think people would be totally hypocritical to condone what has been done. Like, all sides are striving to make peace, and I think people should support that right throughout.
OK, so when you saw it in the news, did you think, well, this is a big chance?
Yes, I think it's a fantastic opportunity. It's been a long time coming.
OK, yeah. What about yourself?
I have my doubts, quite honestly. I feel that it's become the whole agreement altogether has become a bit of a bandwagon for people who are really only interested in petty disputes.
Right, okay, so basically you do not see this happening,
And I
no?
don't see it happening.
Right, okay, anybody agree with that view? Anybody think that it's not good? Right up the back, actually, I'll come right up to you, a bit of climbing right at the start of the show, but that's fine.
Yeah, I think we've had all these things before. We've had ceasefires. It doesn't happen.
Right, so when you saw it in the news, you just thought, no, this is not
it won't last.
another flash in the pan. Anybody else agree with that view? Yeah, right along at the end.
I think that out of all the ceasefires, it does have the greatest chance of succeeding, but however, after seeing Ian Paisley on the TV and things like that, I think that he, together with a couple of small sections of the peace deal as a whole, will be the only thing that wrecks it. I think that it is a good idea in theory, but somewhat naively.
Okay, I know you're talking about one thing there, and we'll get to the idea of Ian Paisley, but who else saw this kind of happen on TV, and what did it mean to you yourself?
Well, I thought it's a great opportunity, but I've just got this feeling there's too many people with that want to keep the divisions apart, and there'll be somebody from one side or the other will wreck it for their own political reasons.
Okay, right, let's hand over to Alison.
Okay, now you don't believe that it will bring peace at all.
No,
I mean, did you watch it happening at all?
Yeah, I did in the media, and it's happened before, hasn't it? No, sorry, I don't think that peace will happen.
Peace won't happen.
No.
Why not?
Well, we've saw it before, haven't we?
We've been there before. Does
Yeah.
anyone disagree with that on this side at all? Yes?
Well, I know we've seen it all before and we've heard it all before, but this is the first time that men of such hatred and bitterness have ever sat round a table to talk peace. And I think that in any occasion we have to try and support that and give it the biggest boost we can possibly manage. And I think that credit should go to Mr Trimble in the fact that he has managed to stay in the middle and keep the balance and actually achieve such a momentous decision, whether it lasts or not, at least for the first time in God knows how many years. They have agreed to talk peace, regardless of ceasefires and de-arming and all the rest of it that goes with it. So I think that there is a chance for it if we support it on the mainland and in Southern Ireland. We have to get together, stop the fighting and start looking towards living together, because it's pointless in this day and age to be at each other's throats.
Who else here will think the peace deal will stick? Is that the corner there? If Ken Swedes by you? Okay.
No matter how biased or agitated some of the minorities are in Northern Ireland, the vast majority of people want peace after too many years of senseless violence. And so that any chance for peace that they give will be wholeheartedly accepted, and it has to be to end this idiotic slaughter.
Okay. Anybody else here? Do you think it will stick? Do you think this is the end to our troubles? This is the end? Yes, over here.
I think the people of Northern Ireland have got to make it stick. I mean, they're the people that are living with it, and if they've come to a sort of compromise with the Republic, the sooner it ends and the less people that get killed, the less families that are destroyed, the only thing I can see is better for the whole of Ireland. Also, the fact is, if it does stick, there are going to be so many economic benefits. Companies will move back into Northern Ireland that have been shied away, been frightened, because when in the last ceasefire, there was a couple of hotels opened up in Northern Ireland. They got bombed, and that was basically bankrupt right away again. No one is going to invest if there's no stability. So we just need to wait and see how it pans out.
So you think that won't happen with this new deal?
I really hope that it does. I hope there's no more trouble. And just for the sake of normal people going about their business, going to school, taking their kids to school. I mean, would you want to put your kids in the car on the way to school not knowing if there's going to be a bomb below it? I think that's just a terrible way to live. And I think the general people in Northern Ireland just don't want to live like that, so I think it will work.
I mean, who do we think are the heroes that brought about this peace deal? Is there anybody who has any opinions upon this? Yes?
Well, I just have to say for the record, I think I got my people mixed up there. It's actually John Hume that deserves the credit, not David Trimble. And if you're looking for heroes, it's the man in the middle that should get it.
Okay, any villains? Anybody think there are any villains in the peace? Yes?
Well, it's got to be Ian Paisley, really, hasn't it? I mean, that guy has done nothing but provoke so much bigotry and ignorance. It's the ignorance you have to diminish from all the young people that are growing up in Ireland nowadays. If they're getting taught to hate the other, then there's no future.
Does anybody think we can blow the peace deal apart at all? Go up the back again.
Yep, I actually think that the splinter groups seem to have a wee part in this rather than the politicians sit round the table. Whereas the IRA in Ireland, the people are alongside of keeping peace. That I would think that the splinter groups would go and ruin it for them as they made a decision. They would blow it wide apart. Gerry Adams go, peace in Northern Ireland. People, how do you feel? Oh, peace. And what do the splinter groups do? Just blow it wide apart, and it will just keep on. You know, I don't think it will settle. Definitely not.
Okay, so in terms of the deal sticking, we're hearing cynicism, we're hearing a bit of hope, but what about the heroes and villains right up the back?
Well, I think the people, most of the people in Ireland really, I think the people want peace, but it's not the first time that we've seen two totally opposing enemies sitting around the same table trying to iron out a peace deal. It's happened before, like Arafat and the Israeli leaders, that but I think you've got to change the culture, and I think that's got to come from the grassroots, from the people. And as the man said over there, it's right that splinter groups are blown it apart, but you've got to.
Right, so possibility splinter groups could wreck it yourself?
I think the important thing we've never seen in Northern Ireland before is that for the first time there's representatives of the Loyalists and the Republican terrorist organisations who sat down round the table and ironed out a deal. If you're looking for heroes, I think the main one's got to be John Hume, who got Gerry Adams at the table in the first place.
Right, okay, so John Hume's a hero. You think he's guided it through. Who could wreck it?
Well, I think Ian Paisley is the obvious candidate, and a couple of the other Ulster Unionist MPs.
Right, actually I'm going to come back to you for a minute. You saw Ian Paisley on TV last night. What did you think about what he was saying?
I think it's just typical of what we've all heard him say for years now. Just basically try to throw a spanner in the works whenever possible. He does nothing but attempt to provoke things, and he's doing it again. And he, along with, as people said before, the splinter groups, will be the only people, I think, who have the ability to make this peace deal disastrous.
Okay, you've got your hand up the back. What about Blair? Do you think he had a big role in this? Do you think he played a significant part?
I think it came from people who were involved in it directly, basically the politicians in Northern Ireland and their constituents, the electorate that they have to answer to. Blair has very well managed to get himself involved in it and be a centre of it, but I don't think he's influential to a great extent.
Right, well, we've got some heroes, we've got some villains, we've got, will the deal stick? Where is this going to end ultimately, yes? What do you think it's going to achieve?
Or hopefully peace in Ireland, but to be honest, I'm not sure at all, because if Ian Paisley's been picked out as a principal villain, but he has got the point that there hasn't been a single gun or a single bullet handed in yet. Everything is still there in place to flare up again if the people fall out over the table and the deal doesn't stick. Things can go back to being every bit as bad, if not worse, as they have been in the past.
Right, if it goes on and if it seems to work, do you think it will be a united Ireland or a strengthened union? What do you think is going to emerge from this? Or some sort of mixture? Where do you think it's going to be?
It'd probably be some sort of mixture, with the European Union sort of encapsulating both countries anyway. These things called national boundaries get kind of blurred anyway, so I think without actually being a proper united Ireland, I could see so much cooperation going on between both sides of the border that it might look to be a united Ireland in fact, if not in name.
Okay, I'll take that up to you, because you were kind of agreeing with him. What do you think is going to be the outcome of it?
I think it's very good that they've got peace now, and I really hope it lasts, but I would be very worried that they'll let a lot of the terrorists out of the prison early, and then if anything happens that the splinter groups don't agree with, they've got the strength, they've got the power to make it worse than what it has been before. So I think they have to keep control on what happens.
Thank you. Over to Alison.
Okay, up in the blue, what do you think? Do you think we will have a unified Ireland? What will be the result of all this?
I don't think it will happen, but I'd just like to say about the heroes, I think the people that have died through all this are the real heroes. No people like John Hume, although they've helped, but the people that have died are the heroes. I think they're the ones that are on the toll. I don't think it'll work. There's too many bigots on either side. I think everybody would like to see it happen, but I just don't see it happening at all.
Okay, thanks very much. We'll take it from there and go straight to the vote. Let's have a round of applause, please. Thanks very much. It's time to get straight to the vote on this issue. Right, if you think that the new deal will stick, then vote with your green cards. If you think that it won't, if you think the peace deal won't stick, then vote with your red. Vote now, let's see it. Ooh, that's extremely difficult to call, actually, but I would say that it looks to me like there's more greens. The proposition is absolutely proven. On with the show, Alison, who's up first?
Okay, thanks, Alan. We'll take one raw merchant seaman, add an interest in food, start an apprenticeship with Scotland's finest chefs, simmer for a few years, and what do you get? Well, amongst other things, two of the country's finest restaurants, a television series, and Nick Nairn. Please welcome him to Trial by Night.
If you hope to tuck into a T-bone steak, or indeed if you hope for a bowl of oxtail soup at Nick Nairn's place, forget it. Beef now has to be deboned before it can be sold to customers or served in restaurants. The tail end of last year saw the beef on the bone ban introduced when government scientists traced BSE to the spinal cords of cattle. And next week, judgment is expected in the first prosecution under the beef bones regulations. Borders farmer and hotelier Jim Sutherland, who's actually in our audience tonight, allegedly served beef on the bone. If he's found guilty, he could end up with a £5,000 fine or 6 months in jail. His defence team claim the billion to one chance of contracting CJD from an infected cow in 1998 demonstrates that the regulations are manifestly absurd. If he wins his case, he'll be striking a blow for consumer choice, says Nick Nairn. Tell us why, Nick, we should end the ban on beef on the bone. Please state your case.
Last year, 10 years after BSE was first discovered as a health risk in cattle, the government banned sales of beef on the bone. Yet the most up-to-date research commissioned by the government itself, shows that you are 100 times more likely to win the lottery than you are to contract CJD from eating British bone in beef. In other words, it is a 1 in a billion chance. And I think that surely people should be informed of the risks and given the choice, just as smokers are. I really resent being dictated to by a nanny state, an ill-informed nanny state at that. Why not ban saturated fat or alcohol, which are much more likely to kill you? British, and particularly Scottish farmers, have been made to suffer enough in recent times. And this ban not only further punishes them, but, and I suspect this is contrary to the ban's intention, it also damages British beef's reputation abroad. And as a chef and as a restaurateur, I am dismayed to be denied one of the cornerstone ingredients of my cooking. So, no more oxtail, no more rib roasts, no more rich beef sauces. I really think this is definitely a sorry case of the gate being closed after the horse is bolted.
A big round of applause for Nick Nairn, please. Let's hear it. Right. Loads in your opening statement. Very filling, I think would be the thing to say. But essentially, if we think about this ban, right, the government brought it in to protect the consumer, to protect consumer confidence. Why are you complaining?
Well, I think, obviously I'm going to complain for the reasons I've just stated, but people are suffering. It's going to cost the farming industry over £100 million. And really the thing that gets my goat the most is why are they doing it now, okay? Now, 5 or 6 years ago, there was a problem with BSE, that we had infection in cattle. There was evidence to suggest that it was crossing out across into humans through CJD. And at the time, then, there were people who were eating infected beef. Now, that was a time for the government to act, not now. And what I suspect has happened now is that they are anxious to demonstrate to our European partners that they are taking a really tough line. But the trouble is, their tough line is affecting people. It's affecting me, it's affecting Jim Sutherland, it's affecting farmers all over the place. You know,
Okay.
and they should not make take decisions like that without fully thinking them through.
OK, and I want to get to the European question a bit later. But, you know, I mean, I think a lot of people would say to you, in all fairness, right, the reason for this ban is quite simple. We want to remove material which could transmit BSE from the human food chain. That is reasonable. The government has acted reasonably.
No, I don't think so, because, I mean, their own research has shown that BSE is virtually extinct now. The chances of getting it are infinitesimal. And actually, the problem has come because there was a report that said things I've had to learn is DRGs, dorsal root ganglias, okay? These are little kind of nerves that come off the spinal thing. There has been research to suggest that these transmit BSE. So as soon as that, because they're getting so paranoid about it, as soon as that report came out, there was a knee-jerk reaction. They said, we must do something, we must be seen to be acting, ban the sales.
Well, that's it. I mean, I think people would say to you, you know, and I would say to you, it's a totally cynical way of looking at it. The government is taking a grown-up attitude. They have been told. The government hasn't decided. They have been told by CERC, the Spongiform Encephalopathy Advisory Committee, that there is a risk. They are responding to that risk. That's a sensible thing to do.
The risk is a tiny risk, you know.
But it's a risk.
Okay, right. You presumably every day you cross the road. That's a risk. Okay. You drink alcohol. You eat saturated fat. Okay. These things are risk. Cigarette smoking. Cigarette smoking almost certainly will kill you. Okay. Now the government knows that. It's on the packet. Okay, but they don't ban sales, and the reason they don't ban sales is financial, because they get huge revenue from the tobacco industry. Okay, and they're liable to be kicked out of power by the people who are furious at you know, their lives being affected. Now, the lives being affected here are a smaller number; they don't have a lot of power.
So you know, in your view, then, basically, because there's a few risks, license anything that might be dangerous.
No, I don't think so. I think the government has a responsibility to use its power carefully, that it should outlaw things that are really dangerous, things that can really be injurious to our health, things that are happening like radiated food and genetically modified food. Okay, we don't hear anything about that, but that is now more likely to harm you than BSE. The trouble is BSE is an easy target.
Let's find out what the audience think.
Okay, just here, what do you think of the ban on beef and bone?
I think it's total hypocrisy by the government. Cigarettes kill millions of people. Its facts are proven. What do the government do? They still sell them and whack a massive tax on it. If they were consistent, they would still sell beef in the bone and whack a massive amount of tax on it. Give people the choice. That's what consumers are there for. Make them aware of the facts.
Okay, yes, what do you think?
I would say it's probably safer to eat beef now than it was, and I think we're all sensible enough. The risk is so small that if we're just given the facts, we're big enough to make up our own minds on whether to take the risk to eat it or not.
Okay, we've just heard the facts, like why we shouldn't ban it. Does anybody have the facts why we should? Yes.
There's a much better case for banning meat on the basis of its microbiology than on the basis of eating beef on the bone. So I think there's a great hypocrisy associated with this, and we should look at the other issues rather than just concentrating on the bone of meat.
Okay, anybody else think we should ban it? Yes, up in the corner there.
The risks of the BSE have been sheltered from the rooftops for years, but people didn't listen. Now, finally, a government has decided to act, even in some small, tiny, nitpicking way, and it's finally, if it saves one life, it is worth it. But arguing that it's people's right to take a risk, it's this thing, do you want to play Russian roulette? It's dangerous.
Okay, we'll pick that up and go over here, yes.
I think that people have a right to choose what they want to eat. If people want to smoke, they can smoke. If they want to drink, they can drink. I mean, the Japanese are allowed to eat squid and whales. Why can't we eat T-bone?
Right, but if the government's saying to you there is a risk, right, and we're taking some action to help you avoid this risk, is that not reasonable?
It would be reasonable if the risk was taken at the right time. As Nick Nairn says, BSE is virtually extinct by now, and it's stated in the papers you have a greater risk of contracting E. coli and salmonella these days than CJD.
Right, yes.
I think the whole BSE scare now is similar to the salmonella one in the late 80s, that it's just another shining example of the inept Tory government that we had that did nothing then but is now leaving until now. The real risk was back then, not now, so it's nice of the government to protect us, but it is unnecessary.
Okay, does anybody actually think this ban is a good thing over here? Let me see some hands. No, yeah, there is a bit of support up here. Right.
It's not because products are sold that may kill you, like cigarettes or alcohol, that you may say any product that may kill you. Quite the contrary.
Can I ask, where are you from?
Paris.
Paris, right, okay, so when you think about it, you know, when British beef is mentioned to you, what do you think about it?
I've always kind of reserved for it, but we've got good beef in France, so...
Bit of publicity, I like that. Does anybody else support the ban? I refuse to believe that there isn't. Yeah, there must be something else.
Every couple of years, for the past 10 years, there's been another BSE outbreak, another, CGD crisis. It's time we just eradicated once and for all, and if that means getting rid of beef on the bone for a couple of years, then fair enough. It's affected us at home and abroad, and it's time's up for it.
Okay, let's put that straight back to Nick. Okay, I mean, if somebody said to you, you know, we're talking about, I believe I'm right in saying this, that prior to the ban, like, it was only 5% of meat consumption that was actually beef on the bone. So it's hardly a great loss anyway.
Well, I think you have to look at what's actually happened. Right, since 1991, there has been a law passed that prevents cattle of more than 30 months being sold on to the consumer. Okay, BSE takes 3 years to come to a stage where it can contaminate, can give you BSE. Okay, all the cattle under that age were slaughtered. Okay, although by the time the government actually got the legislation into effect, then they'd eaten half of the infected cattle. Okay, and unfortunately, you are going to see cases of CJD appearing over the next few years, but that is as a result of what happened before then. And all cattle that at the slaughterhouse now the spinal cord is removed. So this has been going on for 4 or 5 years now, and the result of that is that BSE has been virtually eradicated. There are much worse things being done to the food that we eat at the moment.
Right, well, you know, like what? I mean, do you support this line here on salmonella?
Well, exactly. I mean, salmonella, again, is a case in point because it's been quiet for a few years, but there has been a couple of reports in now that salmonella levels in eggs, again, are becoming dangerously high. One of the things that I think that the government should be doing is preventing commerce driving down the quality and the safety of food for financial gains. Okay. Now, can I just finish that? Because one of the reasons that BSE came was because they were putting ruminant remains, actual animal stuff, back in the feed stuff. Now, how long did it take for the feed manufacturers, okay, to become accountable and say that that's what we're doing, and then to ban that? It took a long time, but it has been done now. Okay, so you seem to be allocating a bit of blame there as well, and I would say in a way kind of advocating more bans. There are some scientists, and I'd like to get their opinion on this. But if I said to you, well, you know, salmonella, E. coli, totally different, because we know the parameters of those. We know you cook your food properly, you'll be fine. With BSE, we don't know that. We do not know that. So any risk is not worth taking. It's entirely different from any other food scare. I don't think so. You know, you are in the very early days of research in BSE, okay? But there is a huge amount of focus on BSE research at the moment. And I have to say that, you know, the stuff that's coming out is fairly consistent, okay? That we have, obviously, if you ingest BSE infected beef, you're in trouble. So what they've done is they've just got rid of it. They have stopped cattle by February of 1996, it will be impossible to get hold of a piece of beef that was brought up in the time when feedstuff was infected or there was BSE around. That's going to happen very shortly, and I think that's probably a good time that the ban should be lifted. You know, that 30-month period has been reached. So in actual fact, then, following the logic of your line, you would have had a ban ages ago. Absolutely, yes. There was a problem 5 or 6 years ago. There was a big problem. This is what I'm saying about shutting the gate after the horse is gone. It's typical of the government's attitude towards legislation and food. You know, they use it for political ends. They're not using it to actually enhance our lives. You know, and they should be doing. They have a responsibility to do it. OK, well, the government then are saying, this is their line, right, fairly much is, we're doing something. There is still a risk. We're told that. You say, you, Nick Nairn, tell me there is no risk, right? But meanwhile, a government science body tells me there is a risk. So logically, because I represent the people and I must look after them, I have to take action. It's the sensible thing to do. It's the right thing to do. You don't advocate it. So what would you do? With the beef industry now, I would make people aware of the facts. That's the trouble with this whole thing. There's so much, when I was doing research into this, you know, DRGs, MAF, SEAC, BSE, DNV reports, all these kind of things, you know, it is incredibly confusing, right? And I am a chef, I'm not a scientist, okay? And it's taken me about 2 days to get to the bottom of it and to finally discover, yes, there is a risk. It is a 1 in a billion risk. Okay. And I think that's acceptable. Let's go to the audience.
Okay, well, over here we have, I believe you're a food scientist, yes.
That's correct, yeah.
Obviously, you have a lot of opinions on what Nick is saying. Could you tell me something?
I think he's right. I think that also we talked a bit more there about salmonella and E. coli and things like that. They're still very poorly understood. And the point is that when we cook food, we destroy a lot of these microorganisms. But meat and poultry products are contaminated with microorganisms. We can't get away from it. So I think that there is a greater risk, and people do die from food poisoning. We all know that. There's been many cases recently. So I think we're concentrating a bit too much on the beef on the bone and forgetting the more fundamental issues of microbiology-driven food poisoning outbreaks.
Okay, what about yourself? What do you think of food scares? I mean, salmonella, we've heard it all before.
Well, I don't think that we should ban beef on the bone, because I think that as an individual I do have the right to choose, but I think a point that has to be raised is the way that we overproduce all our animals. They're kept in ridiculous conditions. I mean, the way chickens are kept is pathetic and awful, and I think we really have to look at the way we are over-expecting our cattle to like reproduce, and the conditions we keep them, as you said, feeding animals, previous animals, is not like a good idea. You know, we have to look at the way we treat animals before we go making bans on like the production from the animals. I just think that BSE has got a lot deeper avenues than what we're actually exploring. I mean, we're looking at microbiology and we're looking at this aspect and that aspect. Let's start with the treatment of the animals to see if it's an illness that they're creating because of their conditions before we go banning it. You know, look into the subject properly first.
Well, who do we blame for this then? Do we blame the food manufacturers? Do we blame the farmers?
We blame the big companies, the ones who expect the money and the revenue back from all these overproduced animals. As he said, you know, you have to look to the bigger issues.
Who agrees with that? Anybody here? Yes?
I think there's someone in the office, in the government's office, made a mistake by banning the beef on the bone. I feel other countries laughing at us sometimes. What? No marchand one, no these beautiful wine sauces. It's all these sauces comes from this beef bones, and I feel they are laughing at us. I agree with the young lady. You know.
Okay, I mean, if we look at the food manufacturers, aren't they meeting like the market of supply and demand? I mean, we are demanding cheap food, therefore maybe aren't we to blame? Anybody else think that? Anyone here? Yes?
I'm also a food scientist, and I think there is a wider issue here which many people have touched on, that whenever you do anything in life there is a risk associated with it, and it's how you weigh up that risk, and the government's responsibility is to weigh that risk up and decide whether or not it is a risk worth taking. Now on this particular issue I think they probably did go too far towards dictating, whereas what they should have done, as they've done in many other issues, and they will do in many other issues like genetic modification, irradiation of foods, they will weigh up the evidence and they will take a decision based on that evidence, which is about risk and whether it poses a tangible risk to your health. And that's really at the end of the day what it's about. And if people bear that in mind, what the media, and I have to say that perhaps they bear the brunt of the blame here too, is they try to make heroes and devils, where there are no heroes and devils. There is a middle ground, there is a risk, and perhaps they should take share of the blame as well.
Okay, there's a bit of agreement from Nick there. Now I'm going to let you in because you've been dying to get in.
I would like to agree with that woman in that what she says is that the government has their duty to sort of weigh up either side, but I'd like to pick up on what Nick said in that how can the government weigh up such a risk like tobacco in a similar manner as a small player like CGD would? It's much easier for them to sort of dispute and say what's got to happen.
Okay, so would you be happy then if your food was labelled and you were told, look, there's a risk associated with eating this? Would that be the solution for you? Government health warning essentially on the side of your beef?
Well, I'm not a solution, but I sort of contest that it's my choice to eat that beef or not.
Okay, so would you be happy with that? Yeah, a government health warning, would that work?
I don't think a government health warning is required in this particular instance. I think the risk, as has been said, is so small.
Right, okay.
And perhaps that they have gone too much the other way for other reasons,
Right.
understandable reasons. They've perhaps gone the other way this time.
Okay, let me take it back over here. Yeah, because there's a few people wanting in yourself.
Yeah, I was just going to say, are you still allowed to serve things like, is it beef Wellington, where you've got the raw egg and stuff? Are you still allowed to sell them in restaurants in Britain?
Beef Wellington is actually is beef that has a bone off.
Yeah, but just with the raw, I mean, it does sometimes
Oh,
get
yes,
served with the raw
steak
egg.
tartare. We are
sorry,
actually
is that
allowed
one?
to serve steak tartare.
So
believe
we're
it or
allowed
not,
to make
which
that choice
is-
there.
Well, yes, and you're far more likely to get some sort of E. coli or salmonella bug from eating steak tartare, which has two very dodgy things. It's got raw meat and it's got raw egg in it.
Okay. It's hardly a great advert for the menu. Jim Sutherland, I'll come to you because obviously you're here and these are your two lawyers with whom I have to use the words allegedly a great deal. So obviously what do you think about it?
Well, there was an interesting point made across here about the Europeans laughing at us, and they're actually laughing at us in more ways than we perhaps realise, because I see this ban as a positive disincentive for the Europeans to allow us to put our beef back into Europe, which is what the farming industry actually want. At the moment, you may realise that British beef is banned from the rest of the world. And the Europeans just think it's great. Here, Cunningham's come up with another reason why they're not going to let it back in, although he's actually tried to convince us that that's one of the reasons that he has implemented the ban.
Right. So just to kind of sum up, do you agree then it's choice, it's an infinitesimal risk, it's essentially something you should take on an informed basis?
Infinitesimal is actually the wrong word to use in this case. That the risk that you've been shown, 1 billion to 1, that's larger than it in reality is, because even that's been dressed up to try and kid on that there's some real risk there. I mean, even 1 billion to 1's tiny, but if you actually look at the science behind the thing, it's probably more like a million to 1.
Right, but I mean, Jim, they didn't make it up, right? There is a risk. Don't you think you have to take a kind of responsible course of action?
I think the responsible course of action here was to announce that there was this tiny risk and let people decide for themselves, as most people did when the ban was announced. If you remember, the butchers couldn't get enough beef on the bone because they were selling it like hotcakes before it was banned. It was a ridiculous situation, and then the government still insisted they were right. And here we have tonight, we have 100 people or whatever here, and we've got one person in favour. It's crazy.
Okay, I think there might be a couple others being quiet, but we'll see. Well, I mean, there was kind of coming from over here. I think it was that lady there gave us this argument of blame. I mean, is it farmers? Is it producers? Is it feed manufacturers? Who's to blame? Who do you blame?
Well, I kind of look at this in a wider issue. I think we are in danger of trying, as a lady over there picked up on it as well, we're trying to get too much out of our agriculture. Now, I'm not a woolly-hatted green, okay, but I think we should look at food production in general. Maybe a hangover from post-war days when we were a nation, or an island nation, and we had to get heavily into intensive farming to become self-sufficient. Okay, and I think we still carry too much of that intensive food production in all ways, in vegetable production, poultry production, in beef production. I think you have to but you have to balance it, and I would just like that there's this more debate, more information to the public about what they're actually eating, whether it's been irradiated, whether it's been genetically modified,
okay, right.
all that stuff.
But if I can just pull you back to my kind of central point, so farmers and producers are to blame, yes.
Everybody kind of has to have a bit of a blame. I kind of think the government knew there was actually a report 10 years ago. It was a young veterinary scientist actually made the link between BSE and CNJD, the new CJD, 10 years ago, and his report was actually suppressed.
Right,
okay. Right, so the government are probably the major culprits.
Right, okay, if a lot of people said to you, well, in actual fact, what the government have done here, you said at the very beginning, right, that they were acting against farmers, because ultimately what happens is everybody goes, oh no, British beef, and we lose out. And this guy's saying, yeah, people are laughing at us. But in fact, you could argue, no, it's totally the opposite, because what happens is, in the long run, people say British beef is safe, it's been screened. That's a much better approach for us.
Well, I think if they had gone about it in the right way, you might have got that result. But I think they've gone about it in a ham-fisted way, and you have got the result where I think in Europe they are kind of laughing at us at the moment.
Okay, let's take a couple of other opinions, yes.
Yeah, I haven't got my hand up. But I was.
That's not going to stop me.
I was just going to say it's important to look at the political issues as well, and I think that it's a big issue for farmers actually getting the ban lifted, and that by building up confidence in Europe, by you know, maybe sort of overprotecting people, that would be a good way to do that, and that's probably a bigger issue than freedom to choose whether we take this 1 billion to 1 chance.
Right, don't you think people would be moaning? Don't you think people would be saying, oh, you know, the government lacks, they've let this go, they should have done something, it would have been better to do something in the end, even if it was a bit late? Don't you think that would be the attitude of many? I mean, let me put that to somebody, yeah.
Well, I'd just like to say, like, as a nation, Great Britain isn't self-sufficient in beef. We don't produce enough beef for ourselves. Instead, what happened when they brought in the ban, we got everybody else's beef chucked on us, which wasn't as safe as us. So really, the government put us, the people, at a bigger risk than what we were at before. And I think, really, they were totally to blame. And the ban that they've got now on beef on the bone, I mean, it's come far too late. I don't think there is a risk now. If there was a risk, I believe it was like Nick said, it was back then. And it should be lifted now, and we should have the right to choose.
Okay, right, let's take it across to Alison.
Okay, then. We're out of time on this debate, and time to see if this lot are convinced. If you think we should end the ban on beef on the bone, raise your green cards. If not, raise your reds. Please vote now.
I'll tell you, I have rarely seen such an overwhelming verdict. I declare that proposition proven. Let's hear it for Nick Nell. We absolutely loved this bunch tonight, I can tell you. Just before we go on, a big plug for our last show in this run. Next week, Scottish Office Minister Brian Wilson will be on trial to argue the government's new deal for young people is a fair deal. If you're between 18 and 24 and you're unemployed, it's your chance to let him know what you think. Call our hotline now if you want to take part next week. Stay tuned, because after the break, Nick is going to have to cook for every single one of these people. And also, Sally Cartwright will argue, Hello magazine proves it pays to be nice. Back in a bit.
Okay, and welcome back. Deputy Chair of the Periodicalist Publishers Association, a past president of the Women's Advertising Club of London, and currently the publishing director of Hello, our next guest reckons she knows a thing or two about selling magazines. Not only that, I've got some lovely photos of the inside of her house in my pocket right here. Sally Cartwright, please take the witness stand. Okay, well, it hit our newsstands 10 years ago with a bright, breezy and strictly positive approach to the rich and famous people that populate its pages. And being nice to aristocrats and some of the wealthiest people on the planet apparently has punter appeal. Hello has just passed its 500th edition and sells over 500,000 copies a week. Sally Cartwright reckons she knows the secret of its success. Sally, tell us why Hello magazine proves it pays to be nice.
Well, I certainly think we have proved that it pays to be nice. Before we launched in the UK 10 years ago, there'd long been a belief amongst newspapers and magazines that good news doesn't sell. That what sold newspapers was never going to be somebody's marriage being happy, or a business doing well, or everything going right. What you were supposed to do to sell a magazine or a paper was to dig the dirt on somebody, was to look for the skeleton in somebody's cupboard and reveal it to a shocked public. Well, Hello came along with a totally different philosophy, that there was a market for good news about people, that you didn't have to be nasty to your interviewees and twist what they say. Now, it took us Brits a year or two to get used to this strange concept. But if you look around now, you'll find that the magazines that are doing really well are the ones who are generally nice. Hello sells more than 500,000 copies a week. We've had 2 very, very look-alike magazines launched, and they're doing pretty well too. So clearly, to an extent, we've demonstrated that it proves to be nice. What's more, there are celebrities who won't talk to the newspapers now because they know that what the newspapers will do is twist and comment and scrape and snide. And they'll talk to Hello because they know we'll just report what they say. We'll be nice. So, it's a growing trend. Sign up to it now. It pays to be nice.
If you could encapsulate it, what is the formula behind Hello's success? What are the points that makes Hello such a big success? What's the formula that's there?
I think it satisfies everybody's basic human curiosity without making them feel guilty about doing it. Because they know if we go into somebody's house, yeah, they're going to be able to see, look at what's on the mantelpiece. I'd never have chosen those curtains. You know, that's an appalling dress. But they know that we were invited in, so they can look at those things without feeling guilty. Hello satisfies your curiosity in a way which is guilt-free and pleasant. It's for fun.
I mean, some people might say that Hello is an extended gossip column. What would you say to that?
I can understand them saying it, but generally we're not reporting the rumours. We're reporting the facts, who is with who at the moment, and what they say about things, not speculation.
I mean, what has Hello got to offer readers that other magazines don't?
Relaxation, entertainment, fun, no problems, no cures for your sex life, no ways to improve your job, no ways to get on in the world. Hello is for relaxing. It's for having a gin and tonic in the bath with. It's for pleasure. And that, I mean, we all need pleasure.
Right, if I could maybe pick up on a couple of those points. I mean, Alison's kind of pushed you a bit on what Hello is, why it's nice, but I think ultimately a lot of people would say to you, well, it's not nice. It's voyeuristic, and that's nasty. What would you say to those people?
I don't think it is voyeuristic. Voyeurism is one end of a spectrum. Ordinary curiosity is the other. And because Hello is invited into those houses, invited in to look at what people are doing, that's guilt-free. That's not voyeurism.
Right, but you know, you're invited in with the big fat chequebook. The bottom line here is that a lot of people will say, well, you know, the tabloids take a photograph of Elton John in his dressing gown, right? And it's, oh, tragic, it's terrible. But, you know, you're just a sanctioned tabloid. He just lets you in. That's the only difference. You're just the same.
Sometimes there are fact checks involved. Sometimes there aren't. What we don't do, that the tabloids do, is the long lens photography through the shrubbery. And that, I think, is voyeurism, and it's nasty, and I don't like it, and I wouldn't want us to do it.
Right, you wouldn't want you to do it, but can you tell me in all honesty that Hello has never gone to that peak bit, has never gone down that alley it maybe shouldn't have, maybe has shown a photo that it probably couldn't have?
We've never done the through the shrubbery bit.
Right, but beyond that, maybe through the trees, or the fence, or...
Well, fences maybe.
Right.
I don't think we've ever gone so far that I would be ashamed of it. And some of the tabloid stuff I really wouldn't want to be responsible for. I don't want to be part of a magazine or a newspaper that wrecks people's lives, that exposes things that actually it doesn't do anybody any good to hear about. doesn't improve anybody's life.
OK, let's find out what the audience think.
OK, who here buys Hello? Have we got anyone who buys Hello? Oh, one lady over here in the corner, yes.
Well, when you plan what you do with the lottery and you fantasise, Hello is all about fantasy. You want to know what other people do with lots of money and how they spend and what they have in their homes. It's all about losing yourself into a lost world and, you know, seeing how people live and, like, get a little bit of happiness yourself and, you know, picking yourself up when things might not be going good for yourself. And it's not tabloid trash, because tabloids do peek through trees and do invade privacy. Who buy Hello, OK, you pay the money, but people are buying the magazine, so they want to see these kind of things no matter if money's paid or not.
OK, anybody else read Hello here? Yes, just up the back here.
I think that Hello magazine is very good in the way, the points you've made, but I also think that half the fun of it is laughing at all these people making fools of themselves by saying, I am completely in love with such and such, and then you hear 6 months later that it's all down the drain hole, but there they are blatantly saying hello, I love them with all my heart, we're never going to split up, and I think that's half the fun of reading Hello.
And that is obviously the curse of Hello. I mean, does somebody think there's anything wrong with living through these fantasies? I mean, not a bit sad doing that. I mean, get a life. Yes.
It's all false. I mean, at least with tabloids, you get to see to a certain extent the real person, the real star coming out the bath with the hair a mess, without the makeup and without everything polished to the 90s, do you know what I mean? But, do you know, with this Hello, I can't imagine anyone sitting in the bath having a gin and tonic, you know, going through it. It's disgusting. It's for sad old people who've got nothing better to do but dream about all these people that are rich and boasting about how much they've got and look at this room, this is great, you know.
I mean, who agrees with that? Who thinks that it is an airbrushed version of life? Yes.
I just don't see why anyone could have any interest in it, do you know what I mean? I find it a bit kind of sickening to see how these people live their lives, do you know what I mean? I don't really want to know.
Yes, at the back there, are you a reader or
no.
Not a fan at all?
Well, non-public anyway. I just think the whole George Michael thing proves that people don't want the media to be nice. You know what I mean? Like, I think that proves that people want to read the tabloids. That's escapism. That's what people want. They want to read scandal. You know, like real life, everybody goes through scandal and you want to read that. You don't want to read nicey things. Well, I don't anyway.
OK, Sal, I take that back to you. When people want real life, this guy has a point. Tabloids sell in their millions, more than Hello does.
Tabloids do indeed sell in their millions, but Hello sells more than 500,000 copies a week, and that, for a magazine circulation, is the peak of the mountain. It does very well. And to come up to the lady's point over there, when you say that tabloids show you the real person, they don't. They show you their view of that person.
To a certain extent.
And what you get is not so much Mr. X telling you about life. You get the journalist's view of Mr. X, taken from the angle that that journalist wants to portray. Hello is a magazine of reportage. Yes, it's reportage of people, but we print what they say. It is for you, the readers, to make up your minds and to judge what they say. Not for us. It's your choice.
OK, right, let's take a look. The juices are flowing over this side. Nick Nairn's back. We'll get it, yes.
It's a bit of a sham to say that while newspapers catch people unaware, you see the real person, because I think you hear so many stories about Hello where people have rented out hotel rooms. It's not even been their house, and you give them plenty of warning, so it means that they can create whoever they want to be, and it's just a PR stunt for people who are self-obsessed. And it's interesting as well that you say that you don't want to be part of something that ruins people's life, but consistently after people have been in Hello, their lives have been ruined, so I think you are part of something that ruins people's lives.
OK, so you're saying it is an airbrushed version of life that we're getting. Yeah, anybody agree with that particular view? Yes, right up the back.
It's an exceptionally tacky magazine.
Right. How?
You have a magazine where people get paid money to appear in it and give an interview of sorts, where there's no probing questions asked. They get to say it's a PR platform for them, a very glossy PR magazine, and that's about it. There's no news in it.
That's not true.
Well, Mr. Motivator's wedding.
Right, let's just take that right back to you. I mean, the point here is that basically it is an airbrushed version of life. You're not probing, it's not journalism, it's just, oh, we'll show your good side.
OK, the fact you say there's no news in it, that actually isn't true. Our Panorama and 7 Days pieces cover absolutely the events of the last week. We were the first magazine during the Gulf War to bring back colour pictures of the war, of the people in it and what was happening. Hello is a news magazine about people rather than things, but I would certainly defend its news content.
Yeah, but I think the point here is, right, that it's a gloss about people. I mean, you take just what people are saying, the curse of Hello, you show a wedding, but behind the scenes, I mean, there may be violence involved. They split up within 3 weeks, and you're just happy to show a few photographs.
I'm sorry, I think we're a symptom rather than a cause on that. More than 50% of marriages nowadays end in divorce. So what Hello is doing, I'm afraid, is reflecting that trend, reflecting those marriages rather than causing them.
OK, right, let's take a few more from the audience. Guy right up the back here. Sorry, I'll come through. Yeah.
I have a friend in Argentina, and she writes for the Argentinian equivalent of Hello.
Hola.
And they sit in the office and make up the interviews. which they then pass on to the interviewee to approve before publication. They rarely interview anyone.
Right. OK, but that's a bit of fantasy. I mean, you lot were all applauding there. You went, but so is this a bad thing? Yeah, do you think this is what's bad about Hello? Or do you like it? What?
I think it's harmless. I mean,
Right.
at least, well, if the interviewees get to see the interview before it's published, then does it really matter if it's been made up or not?
Well, basically, so you're just happy to have, you know, just happy to let that interviewee tell you what he wants you to
If
know.
you're going to read a magazine like that anyway, you are relaxing with a gin and tonic and reading it for a laugh.
Right, let me flip this back to you, because a lot of people would say that image, relaxing with a gin and tonic in the bath, it's a bit middle class. You know, that's why it doesn't appeal to a lot of people.
You could have a half of lager in the bath if you felt better. But I mean, certainly no interview in Hello magazine is made up. If they're made up in Argentina, I would regret it and do my best to find out, but I wouldn't want it to happen here.
OK, right, fair enough. Anybody else who... Yes.
It's alleged in the gutter press make up half their stories anyway, so it doesn't really matter whether Hello make up their stories or not.
Right, so you're saying it's gutter press?
No, not at all. I've no, personal views on that, like, in a bit, you know, like, in a... That's said about, like, supply and demand, you know, like, people want to read, like, the gutter press.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if people want to read the Hello magazine, like, supposing it's made up or not, like, and it doesn't really matter. It said it's a form of escapism. If it's stories, people buy comics, they're made up.
OK, right,
Same thing.
Put it back to Al.
Okay, does anybody think that Hello is elitist at all? Do they believe that you have to have a double-barrelled surname to obviously get in the pages? Yes.
Yeah, well, who really wants to know who the Queen's cousin's going with? And that's what the first 10 pages are filled with. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm unfortunate to have to pick it up. My doctor's surgery doesn't get any other magazine. And it's like torture sitting waiting. You know, it has no relevance to my
makes you read
lifestyle.
it.
No, that's true, but I mean, at the same time, it has no relevance to my lifestyle. So, like, what? I just don't see the point in it at all. I really don't want to know who Rich and Famous is doing what. I would rather know about something a bit more deep and important.
Okay,
You know,
what
done
magazines?
nicely.
Okay,
Done
what,
nicely.
What magazines do people read here? I mean, come on, give us an idea. Yes.
I'm a film fan. I read film and science fiction magazines, and a lot of those are driven by fans who want to hear about their favourite celebrities, their favourite projects, and either usually discouraging, it's going to be rubbish, but quite a lot of times they're going, this is going to be brilliant, this is going to be the best thing of our lives. So what's wrong with Hello doing the same thing only for general celebrities as opposed to film stars? And there's nothing wrong with it.
Okay, anybody else? Yes, in front here.
I think it all comes down to choice. I mean, there's a lot of caustic comments going about Hello. You don't necessarily have to buy it, but you can't censor it out the way. Other people may want to buy it. It's got a high readership. You can't tell people not to buy it. If they want to buy it, they buy it. If you don't like it, don't read it, and that's the end of it.
I can pick up on that. It's got high readership. But most of the readers, about 59% of readers are 35 plus. I mean, what does it offer for you if you do read it? Any readers here? Yeah.
Well, it doesn't verify that I need to have a beer or a whiskey in the bath, do it? Basically, the magazine, I don't really... I mean, I'll go for... if they have things like diets in it, I'll read that, but it seems like it hasn't worked yet. But if I wanted to read a book, I'd go for Roy the Rovers or the Dandy or something like that, you know, more interesting. At least you get a life out of that playing football or something, you know?
Okay. Can I take that back to you, please, Sally? Elitist classist. What do you say to that?
I'd say that it's probably most of the people you're going to read about in it are reasonably well known, reasonably well off. But I don't think it's class-based. I mean, one of the biggest selling issues was Paul Gascoigne's wedding, and none of us would accuse him of being upper class.
I mean, we are like, you've got to admit, there are some distant relatives of the Queen, like third cousin, twice removed in there. It means nothing to the ordinary person on the street.
I think the magazine has to be a mix. What you want in it in most issues is a bit of Hollywood, a bit of UK, a bit of glamour, a bit of more ordinary people. We mix in foreign royalty with British royalty. We've done a lot of research, and generally speaking, the aristocracy come out quite high on the interest scale.
Okay, but I think to be fair, right, a lot of people on that point would just say, well, you know, nonsense. It basically panders to the cult of celebrity. It's about saying, look at my baubles, look at his baubles, aspire to have those, and that's what's wrong with it.
But there's nothing wrong with it.
Well, of course there is.
It's fantasy and it's escapism. If you want to aspire to have, I don't know, gold candelabra on the mantelpiece, you may have bad taste. But I'm not entitled to criticise you for it. It's a choice. You can read Hello, or you can not buy it.
Right, so you're quite, I mean, basically then, you know, people don't buy it, but ultimately you're happy to offer a product which many people would say to you, well, just says to celebs, yes, you're better than everybody else. No. Yes, your house is a bit better than everybody else's. Yes, let's show it off in public.
Excuse me, we don't comment. We don't say this house is better than anybody else's.
But you don't know, I mean,
it's for you, the readers, to judge.
Well, to be fair, right, you're not going to feature any of these houses. You're not going to feature my house. You're not going to... Yeah, and you said Gaza, you know, as if common Gaza. He's still a millionaire. You know, I mean, we're still talking about a man with a lot of money. That's the people who
Alan,
you're going to say, look at their house.
If you show me the pictures of your house out front, I'll let you know.
No, believe you me, you don't want to see it. That's for a magazine called Goodbye. Let's take a few more comments from people who wanted to get... And let me see the hands. There was some people who wanted back in. Yes.
Ultimately, I think it's just sycophantic fawning nonsense. When you see the dreadful cult of the it girl that sprang up largely because of Hello, and again you see the royalty. Big deal, the royalty, so what? They're there because their dads are rich, because of an accident of birth, that's it. Who cares?
OK, thank you. Alison?
OK, well, it's time for another vote. If you agree with Sally, raise your green cards now. If you don't, raise your red cards.
Vote now, let's see it. Well, Sally, I'm sorry to say, because I will slip you the photographs afterwards, there were a few more red, so I have to declare that proposition not proven, but a big round of applause, please, for Sally. Now, remember, Scottish Office Minister Brian Wilson will be on this very show next week when he will argue the government's new deal for young people is a fair deal. If you're between 18 and 24 and you're unemployed, we want you right here to tell Brian Wilson exactly what you think, because it will save me talking, frankly. Call now if you'd like to take part. Stay tuned. Up next, some advice from someone who reckons she can see your problems coming. Psychic agony and Ruth the Truth is up on trial. See you in a bit.
Straight talking are an offer from our next guest. Every week, hundreds of Glaswegians send their sob stories to her problem page in the Evening Times. Please welcome agony aunt Ruth the Truth to Trial by Night.
Well, you're all over the teen mags and the tabloids and even television these days. Fairy godmothers or fathers answering a cry for help, or cynics exploiting other people's misery for fame and fortune. Or are the letters just made up in the editor's office? Probably that guy up the back would know about this if it's true. Ruth the Truth seems to know. So, Ruth, I'll ask you to tell us why agony aunts have the answers. Please state your case.
OK, the definition of an agony aunt is someone who gives advice concerning personal problems. They will be someone with a wealth of life experience and possibly a counselling or nursing background. They should be in the job because of a genuine desire to help individuals overcome their problems. I've been an agony aunt now for 2 years now, with the slight difference being that I'm also psychic. I get over 150 letters a week due to the fact that a large amount of people can't communicate with each other. People write to me because they sometimes can't speak to their families or their friends about their problems, as in many cases they will also be involved too. I am a third party who will not judge people but try to give them subjective advice. For me and other agony aunts to do our job properly, we need to provide practical advice and solutions, and up until now I have tried to provide this service to everyone who has ever wrote to me. I do the job because I care and I want to make a positive difference to people's lives. That is why I propose that agony aunts have all the answers.
Right, let's have a huge round of applause for Ruth. Well done. You probably know exactly what I'm going to ask you.
I
I'm at a
do now.
disadvantage.
I know.
I mean, I think it's a bit like, you know, hello, I suppose, in a way. A lot of people might say to you, well, agony aunts are it's a bit titillation, really. Isn't that the truth of it?
No, not... Well, how can it be about titillation if it's genuine letters that I receive and therefore I publish them? And if it's titillation, then it's obviously the titillation that's happening in people's genuine lives on a daily basis. So for my column anyway, it's not about titillation. I don't have much titillation at all in my column.
Okay, why do we need agony aunts? We've got friends, we've got family. There's trained people out there to help us, doctors, social workers. If we have any problems, why do we need agony aunts to turn to instead?
I think one of the reasons is, as I said in my opening argument, is the fact that sometimes families and friends and people like that, your emotional support, are involved in the problem that you're talking about. So therefore people want this outside person who they can write to, who's going to be separate and not, limit them as to how they're going to fix their problems. And normally I find that people that write to me, they don't have that support anyway. And that's why they genuinely write to me, because there's nobody else there for them.
Okay, yeah, but I think, a lot of people say, well, come on. I mean, come on. We don't have to, as a society, air our dirty linen in public. Just talk to your friends. There will be somebody you can talk to. You don't need to write to a complete stranger.
Well, why do I get 150 letters a week then, Al?
Well, I mean,
there must be a genuine need for it, and a genuine problem whereby people don't have that ability to go and talk to people about their problems. I mean, I get problems of every single kind of type, from sex problems, from relationship problems, to money problems, to, look, I'm a student at uni and I'm doing this and I don't want to be doing it, what should I be doing, how can I go about changing it? Every type of problem. And for sometimes, when I started this 2 years ago, I initially didn't think it was going to be that successful, because I had been told that other agony aunts who have columns made them up, or didn't get the letters, or had to make titillating letters because the letters they got weren't interesting enough. And that just doesn't happen in my column. The letters I get are genuine. They're from people with genuine problems. But for some reason, there is that limitation whereby they don't have somebody that they can go out and talk to. And they write to me.
Okay, let's find out with the audience.
Okay, anybody have opinions on agony aunts here? Yes.
You were saying earlier that the problem was people couldn't talk to anyone else, but from what whenever I've inadvertently picked up a paper and flicked through it, most of the solutions appear to be go and talk to someone. It's like, say for example, I can't talk to so-and-so yet, and whatever the problem is, the solutions appear to be, well, go and talk to them about the problem. It's kind of...
Well, I think what you've got to do is give somebody an avenue about how they're going to... What you've got, basically, when somebody writes to me, they're dependent on you for an answer. And what I do as a trained counsellor is to try and make them non-dependent and therefore go and fix the solution or problem themselves. And therefore, if that means that you're going to divert them to counselling or whatever, then that's what you'll do. If my solution for them is that they'll go to Citizens Advice Bureau and get money problems and money advice, then that's what I'll do. But I mean, you're just saying nonchalantly that I'm saying, right, just go and get help from ever. It's a wee bit more directed, I think, if you read my column.
Okay, Ruth, I just want to get some more of the audiences and I'll come back to you in a minute. Anybody here, I mean, do you not remember when you were at school and you were like 50 and you used to flick straight to the problem pages to say what they were saying, and it's like, oh, a bit voyeuristic, bit of entertainment? Anybody here? Yes, up the back.
Yeah, I usually say, well, if you're going to write, if I was writing a letter to yourself, I'd probably say to my mate, oh, hey, Jimmy, what? Oh, I wrote that letter to the agony about that drug problem. And then he tells somebody else, who tells somebody else, and it goes round and round, and everybody else knows that I've just written a letter to you about my problem.
How bizarre that you'd actually want to tell anyone that.
I mean, some girls sit with a pal and say, right, let's write this letter to the agony, and everybody knows about it now. You know, so you know about it, so does everybody else in the whole of Scotland know about it.
I don't
okay, wait, but people have problems. Wait, what do you do? Yes.
Well, I don't think that it's an important issue as to anybody finding out about it, and I do think that the columns are essential, because I know in my own lifetime there's been a few times where I've been like, oh, who can I talk to? There's nobody left. I'll just write a letter. I could write to this wee woman and get an answer. I mean, it might not be the ultimate solution at the time, but it is somebody there with an answer. Maybe not the answer you want, but it's an answer of some kind, and if she doesn't know how to solve your problem, she'll pass you on to someone who may be able to help. I mean, even in that capacity, I think that you are an important necessity for a lot of people out there who are lonely and don't have anyone to turn to.
Let me take that straight back to you, because I know there's a lot of people in the audience here who want to get in, and I will get to you.
Yep.
I mean, I'm a bit concerned about this. What life experience do you have? What qualifications do you really have?
I have 10 years experience in counselling. I have a counselling background in which I started training at 18 years of age. and I've worked at various agencies, from Hamilton Victim Support to Hamilton Volunteer Project, and through then what I did from counselling and voluntary work was I actually got a job as a counsellor, and I worked as a counsellor for 4 years. So I've had all in about 10 years counselling experience.
Okay, so that's you, but I wonder if that's true across the board. That lets people in, yeah.
I think these columns are actually pointless, but they could be given a point with better answers, because most folk that write, I'll say they write for fun, with funny problems.
Oh,
Why
no,
don't you
that's
just
rubbish.
put
Absolute
funny
garbage.
answers
Oh,
in it,
no.
makes them something to
We'll
read.
take a variety of opinion.
The answers are boring, nobody wants to read them, they like reading the problems, don't they?
Right, okay.
No,
Right, is that true?
that's
Is it just
rubbish.
about getting in, stuck in reading the problems? Yes.
I think he's talking a lot of rubbish because, like, people like forget that they're for entertainment, right? People look at these as the girl says there, like, when you're 15, not people still look at them, and maybe not everybody writes to whoever, but they can relate to them, and they think, well, maybe I've got that problem, or maybe I know somebody that's got that problem. They can pass it on.
Right, so it's a bit of a public information service, you would say. Yes.
I think the main problem with them, and I would think that coming from a counselling background, you would feel this, that people's problems are too complex to be dealt with in 5 lines. If people are writing to you about childhood problems and things they're dealing with in life, then really and truly an answer of a few lines is not going to be any more than something just to tide them over until they get proper counselling.
Alice?
Okay, some people might say that you are making money out of other people's
Can I
problems.
answer that lady's question?
That's exactly it.
Yeah, that's it.
You're saying that obviously in the paper I can only answer a couple of lines. Every person that sends me a standard addressed envelope will receive a personal reply from me, and that is my guarantee at the Evening Times. If I can do that, I will reply to them, and I will send them pamphlets and things that will help them. So although you're just seeing a couple of lines in the paper, you don't actually see what's going on behind the scenes, and that's my counselling background. Not all agony aunts will do that, but that's what I do for the Evening Times.
Not all agony aunts will do that. This is a service that you provide yourself.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes, that's what I've made it. And that's what we've decided upon at the Evening Times, because the reason why I went into it was for caring about people. And as you said about making money, last year I was nearly poached by a larger paper, a national paper, and I refused to go to them because I liked being at the Glasgow Evening Times, and I liked the people that I worked with, and I liked the type of help I could give out, and I felt that if I went to a national paper that would all go to pot. So maybe for other agony aunts the whole thing about is making money. For me it's just to let anybody else. I make a living out of it, but not brilliant, you know.
I'm curious, where does the psyche bit come in? Because it is billed in your column. Can you explain that to me, please?
Well, basically, since birth, there was always something strange about me. Normally people that meet me know that. And then by about the time I was 5 years of age, I had visions and could tell people things that had happened to me. And my mother and father quickly took me to a psychologist who said that I was just hyperactive and that it would grow out of it. By the time I was about 17, went to uni, did a science degree, and just used to, like, my big party trick or pub trick was that I could sit down and tell people about things that had happened in their past or things I could see happening in their future. So when people write to me, they get the agony aunt per se, somebody that can give them practical advice, but also at the same time I'm psychic. So if somebody writes to me with, say, a money problem, the agony aunt side can say, right, go to Citizens Advice Bureau, they'll be able to give you money advice. But at the same time, psychic side can say 6 months down the line, I can see it clearing up for you. Both of it works perfectly together. I'm the only one in Scotland that can do that at the moment.
Okay, I mean, what we're looking at here is that in these letters that we see in problem pages, we're getting information in it. You can contact this person, contact that person if you need help. I mean, has anybody ever read these letters or known somebody that has and been able to get help from it? Anyone at all? Please? Any takers?
I don't know anybody, but I'm sure there are a lot of people that do look at it that way. I mean, when you're saying there's only a few lines there, it doesn't answer the problem. At least it sort of suggests that one person might listen to you, so the next person you go to might listen to you, might be able to help you a bit more. I was kind of sceptical about this before I came on, but like, I'm trying to think of a point against you.
Okay, up the back there.
I think, I mean, some outsiders reading it is titillation, but it's in a good way. And I think if it helps people, I think they should do it. I don't see why they shouldn't do it. I mean, if I've got a problem and I think it will help write to somebody, well, it might be that one person that listens opposed to like, you feel that nobody else will. So I think it can be, if people think it's good for them, why not do it?
Okay, just in the front here, yes.
Everyone that reads it for entertainment value. And if she was really all about caring, why did she not set up a private practice? So people could go to her, ask her advice without having it spread in the newspapers.
Okay, I'll take that back to you, Ruth.
Why
what
don't I have a private practice?
Yeah, if there's so much
I
demand for
can't
it.
get premises, darling. That's what I've been looking for the past 2 years, and I genuinely can't get premises. That's been my big problem, is trying to get premises.
What you should do is you should write a letter to
I should.
that.
I should write a letter to myself to find out when
Right.
that's going to happen.
I'll take that over here because I know there's a few people want in. Yeah.
I think it's a sad reflection on our society.
Mm-hmm.
Used to, religion used to be sort of the thing that people used to go to see and people that they're close to. But now it seems to be that society's become so fragmented that the only way they can talk their problems out is to go to someone, a third party, and it seems to be, you know, just society's ills, you know.
Okay, right. What do you think about what you said?
I don't think that Ruth or any other agony should be attacked for voyeurism, because it's nothing in comparison to the chat shows that we all watch, whether we admit it or not. Reading an agony page is nothing in comparison to watching Jerry Springer where they're half killing each other on stage.
Right, is that true? Is it a bit of that makes us read these things? Who else wants like, yeah, I'll let this fella write it.
I think it is, because if she receives 150 letters a week, on what basis are those published, chosen for publication?
Oh, right, I'll put that straight back to you. So how do you choose? 150 people need help, 150 other people presumably would read
Basically
it.
what I do is I put them into sections of can be published, won't be published, and say for example ones that I can help, like send a leaflet or whatever. Non-publishable ones will be ones that I've had before that I can't even discuss with you on television. They've been vile. And publish ones, and then what I'll do is I'll sit down and I'll say, right, for this week, what we're going to write about, what subjects are we going to cover. But everybody that sends me a stamped addressed envelope will probably in a 12-week period be answered by me with some kind of solution.
It's interesting that you said vile. I mean, so some of these people cries for help.
Do you want to know?
I mean,
are
they not then genuine cries for help? This is just, you know, hate mail in a way. It's just bad mail.
No, it was a man with his dog. That's all I'm saying, Alan.
Right, okay. Right. I did ask to explore that one, so I think fair enough, I deserved that. But I mean, I think a lot of people would say to you that, well, firstly, there's a 12 weeks things to answer, which seems like a long time. But also, isn't it true? I mean, this is just my immediate thought. Isn't it true that you just pick the sexiest letters, and they're the ones that go in the newspaper?
I get loads of sexy letters. I don't know why. People write to me about sex all the time.
Yeah, but the point is, isn't that the ones you pick because you know it will sell?
No, that's not true, because what we go for is maybe some health ones, maybe one about relationship problem, maybe one about somebody moving, or maybe a career or whatever. And if that one, maybe in the emotion one that week, is a sexy one, then that's fine. But I don't think I can be personally put into account for having sexy letters.
But in all honesty then, Ruth, right, in all honesty, you will tell me that if there's a health letter about, you know, some sex problem, right, can't achieve something or other, and there's a problem, and you've got a problem letter about an allergy, you will publish a letter about the allergy.
What kind of allergy?
Well, exactly. Unless she's good. Unless it's a sexual allergy, I imagine it's not going to go into the newspaper.
It depends on what the space is. Because if you have a column at all, you know it's all about space. So if I've got enough space for my allergy will go in. But if I've got enough space for the other one, that'll go in.
Right. What's top of that?
If they're both the same size, I'd probably go. I mean, with my own. Probably the sexy one.
Okay, right, fair enough. Right, it's true, and I admire that honesty. Yeah.
I know from reading Ruth's column that she doesn't. Some of the letters are somewhat abridged, so to speak. They're she doesn't give out all the information.
Oh no,
about the person. They're always quite quite tasteful in a way.
So you think it's good? You think Ruth's columns particularly?
I think Ruth's advice is always very compassionate and caring.
Right, okay. And why do you read it? Is it something that helps you, or do you want to know about other people's problems?
I don't always read it. Sometimes I think it's the psychic element to that interests me more than anything.
Right, I mean, I think a lot of people would say this is more a female thing than a male thing. I'm just going to ask one or two of the men what you think about this. Yeah, what do you think about it? Would you read it? Would you ever write to it?
I have read the Agony Aunts pages, and I've got to say Ruth's is probably a bit more realistic than other ones. The way the letters are put out, they're not sensationalised, but if you look at other national newspapers, they tend to be not graphic, but there's something really. There's always the first letter's always really a nitty gritty, sex, dirty, filthy kind of problem. You know, can you help me with this? You know, you don't really need to see that kind of thing. You know, but with this stuff, it's a bit more sort of very vague. You wouldn't be able to identify people, so. There's not really any harm in it. I mean, you're helping people out. You've got a counselling background, so and if your psychic ability helps, that's fair enough.
Let's find out what the men over here think.
Right, gentleman at the back here, can you tell me, would you ever write into a problem page at all for any
No,
advice?
never.
No, why not?
Just, it is kind of embarrassing though. It's just, I mean, I couldn't put my expressions down in paper. I just wouldn't do it at all. Definitely not, no.
Any other gentlemen want to get in on that? Yes?
I wouldn't think of writing in. I'll listen to some radio-based agony aunts. A few years ago I thought of phoning because of confidentiality, because no one around me would know that such a stupid little problem was affecting me in such a way that it was really annoying me. So some of these problems are best, people would be either ashamed or they feel silly talking about it with their friends or family, but a total stranger through the medium of letters. You know, it's the perfect way of airing problems.
Oh, this lady here, you've got an opinion upon it, yes?
I was going to say that the whole fragment of society, the way society is shaped, has changed so much over the past few years. And before, people would have had be living near the nuclear family with grandma and auntie and people just down the road who they could go and talk to. And I think the way society is structured today, it's so people are so isolated, and it's just a way of it's good communication for people.
Okay, probably have to go to vote just now, Jim. Time up for your final debate. If you agree with Ruth the Truth, raise your green cards now. If not, raise your red.
Let's see vote now. Green and red, let's see them. Well, there's absolutely no two ways about it. They're all green. I don't need a crystal ball, tarot cards or tea leaves to see that. I declare that proposition proven. Let's hear it for Ruth. There we go. That's just about it for yet another edition of Trial by Night. Thank you very much to all of our guests. That was Sally, that was Ruth, and that was, of course, Nick. The studio audience, thanks to Alison. Have you enjoyed it?
I've had a wonderful time.
We're back next week. See you then. Good night. Welcome to this evening's Championship Celtic Park Hour, our last programme of the season. Joining me in the studio tonight to talk all things Celtic, Davy Provan, and alongside Davy, a very happy Alan McInally. Well, here's what's coming up in the programme.
The destiny of the Premier title decided. We look at how the league was won. A bottle-free zone as Celtic sweep away the Saints with a deadly double. And this week's Celtic legend is Kenny Dalglish.
So that's how it's looking, and later in the programme we'll announce your Celtic Player of the Year. Now to yesterday's final game of the 1997-98 season. Celtic welcomed St Johnstone to Glasgow, knowing a win would secure them their first title in 10 years, regardless of what happened in matches elsewhere. Here's the history and highlights of 90 minutes of destiny from 3 o'clock at Celtic Park.
Destiny calling at Celtic Park, and Wim Jansen kept faith with 11 men who took the field against Dunfermline last Sunday. The substitutes bench also had a part to play over the season, and more specifically in this match. St Johnstone had the chance to spoil the party, and there's no doubt George O'Boyle